From hermits that disappear in search of solitude to the survivors with an unshakable will to live, today we look at missing people that were shockingly found alive. Number 8. Private Getaway. At the age of 26, Carlos Sanchez Ortiz de Salazar went missing. The Spanish psychiatrist was gone 15 years before he was assumed to have passed away in 2010. But in 2015, two mushroom hunters stumbled across a hermit who claimed to be Carlos while exploring an Italian natural reserve. He told the man he did not wish to live among people, and now that his retreat had been discovered, he would move on to a new location. Hoping to still provide assistance, the fungus finders reached out to Spanish authorities, who were able to find Dr. Salazar's family. But by the time his parents reached Italy, he had already vanished once more. His family was grateful to learn the news, but still maintain hope that one day they'll embrace him again, if even for a moment. Number 7. Never give up. Armed combat can lead to a number of scary situations, but imagine being so completely stranded during conflict that you can't receive orders or even notification that the fight is over. That's exactly what happened to Japanese Lieutenant Hiro Onoda, who was deployed to the Philippines in 1944. The intelligence officer was given strict orders to sabotage the enemy operations and never to be taken captive alive. Onoda and 3 companions retreated to the hills once Allied forces arrived in 1945 and continued to employ guerrilla tactics from the shelter of the wilderness. One by one, his fellow soldiers perished over the next 2 decades, until Onoda was the last one remaining. Pamphlets would be dropped in the area informing them that the battle was over, but they disregarded this message as propaganda and fought on. By 1974, Onoda had become a legend and caught the attention of the Eastern world, including that of a young hippie traveler, Norio Suzuki. Suzuki ventured off on his travels claiming to be in search of Onoda, a panda, and the abominable snowman, in that order. In February of that year, Suzuki stumbled upon Onoda, and the two became unlikely friends, though Onoda refused to give up his campaign without direct orders from his commanding officer. So with a little help from Onoda's now elderly and retired superior, Suzuki was eventually able to bring the stranded soldier home. He was celebrated in his homeland, exonerated of crimes in the Philippines, and spent the rest of his days between a cattle ranch in Brazil and establishing schools for nature survival back in Japan. Number 6. Gimme Shelter. In late June of 2018, a youth soccer team in Thailand was in the midst of practice as usual when a storm occurred. Parents of the children on the team reported to authorities that they had never returned from practice, and search teams were immediately dispatched. International assistance came from Australia, Britain, China, and the United States. Flooding in the area caused delays in the search, and the Thai military led the charge for more than a week before signs were discovered of the missing team. Hoping to find shelter from the storm, the team had moved into a series of caves near an area called Pattaya Beach. Here they had been stuck huddled on a rock mound as the cave itself had flooded over as well. While stranded here, all 12 youth soccer players and their 25-year-old coach held on for 10 days, hoping for help to arrive, licking condensed water from the cave walls and engaging in Buddhist meditation led by their coach. Outside the cave, the young boys' bikes and soccer gear had laid strewn about, indicating to the hundreds out searching that the team may be nearby. This wouldn't be the end of the rescue mission, however, as the team still remained trapped half a mile below the surface due to the intense flooding. The resulting process took 3 days to complete, as divers and stretchers were employed to carefully extract the victims. While the team escaped unharmed, in the end the rescue team suffered one casualty as a diver gave his life attempting to deliver oxygen tanks to the boys below. Number 5. Car Crash Confusion. In January of 1987, it was like any normal business day for family man Gabriel Nagy. After calling his wife to let her know he'd be home for lunch though, that was the last time she'd heard from him for 23 years. He never made it home for lunch and his car was found the next day, alongside of the road, burnt and thoroughly damaged. The search began, but the only clue that turned up was a bank withdrawal a couple of weeks later in Nagy's name. From then on, Nagy's family was left to wonder, always hoping he would return as they remained in the phone book and continued to pray. But just 2 weeks before a coroner's court hearing to officially declare him dead, a police officer found something peculiar. While preparing for the case, she stumbled across a Medicare record in Nagy's name, only to track him down shortly later. It turned out Nagy had endured a form of amnesia, as his earliest memories involved a head wound, and any memories of his previous life had been foggy since. He spent his time since just trying to get by, camping on beaches, sleeping on streets, and finding work where he could. Eventually, he met a pastor who gave him room, board, and employment, as well as helped him register for Medicare under his old name. The officer who found Nagy alerted the family, and his memories came flooding back once he finally reunited with his now adult children. Number 4. Pseudo-special ops. People go missing for all sorts of reasons, whether it be against their will or to simply escape the responsibilities of their daily life. However, in the case of Philip Cesarego, the motives behind his disappearance were a bit more grand. Having spent time working with the British Army's Royal Regiment of Artillery, Cesarego had tried and failed on 2 occasions to earn a spot in the military's Elite Special Air Service, or SAS. Unwilling to accept his shortcomings, Cesarego did the next best thing and decided instead to find another means to pursue his dream life. After leaving the British Army in the mid-70s, Cesarego pursued a career working with mercenaries, many of which were ex-members of SAS. But following this militaristic lifestyle, Cesarego decided to fake his own passing in an attempt to finally cut all ties with his past life, leaving his estranged wife and kids to deal with the fallout. He was able to keep his secret safe until 2001, after having published a book detailing his Middle East military experience a year earlier. The book garnered him many interviews, and Cesarego appeared on multiple news outlets as a guest expert, all the while touting experience in the SAS under the pseudonym Tom Carew. But shortly after his rise to fame as the go-to expert on religious extremist tactics, the BBC conducted a thorough investigation on him, uncovering the truth. Number 3. Over the edge. Like most parents, Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez couldn't help but worry when their child took a long road trip in the summer of 2018. But their worst fears materialized mid-trip when their daughter Angela went silent mid-drive between Portland, Oregon and Lancaster, California. Typically active on social media and used to checking in with her family, Angela's parents knew something was wrong when they couldn't reach the 23-year-old woman. The family immediately contacted authorities after she checked in one morning during her trip and never showed up. Search parties scoured Monterey County, the last area she was suspected to have passed through, thanks to footage caught on a business security camera. Due to heavy fog, the San Mateo Sheriff's Office leading the search was unable to employ aerial assistance in the search, and Angela went stranded for 7 long days. Luckily, however, a week after her disappearance, a couple of campers strolling in Big Sur found wreckage of an SUV crash at the top of a 200-foot cliff, partially submerged in the shore. Nearby the vehicle, they found Angela alive and mostly well, but stuck at the base of the steep, rocky cliffside. Without food, she made sure to at least keep hydrated with fresh water from a nearby creek she was able to siphon thanks to her radiator hose. While able to walk when the rescue team arrived, Angela didn't escape the crash unscathed, with post-rescue evaluations showing she suffered a brain hemorrhage, 4 fractured ribs, a collapsed lung, 2 broken collarbones, ruptured blood vessels in both eyes, and extreme sunburns. Number 2. Restroom captivity. Lawn bowling may not be for everyone, but Scottish man David Leggett would have settled for just one more fan of the game to turn up to his local club one winter in 2007. One night, the retired teacher had been busy with the outdoor lawn bowling club as usual when he went to use the lavatory and found the hinges had jammed. The outside handle fell off, and the inside handle got stuck as he struggled to make his exit. And then reality began to set in as Leggett knew he'd be there for a while. One night became one day, and that one day became 4 days as the club was seldomly visited in the cold winter months, and even less used was the club restroom. Freezing in just a jacket and trousers, and with no food to consume, Leggett was left to rely on the restroom's tap water to get by. Knowing he needed to stay hydrated and keep his hands and feet warm, he would alternate between cold water to sip and hot water to soak his toes. The temperature and quarters were so unbearable that the single man in his mid-50s could only manage 3 hours of sleep a night. It wasn't until his 4th day trap that a janitorial worker found him and was able to bust open the jammed door with a screwdriver. All the while, no one had realized Leggett was missing, a factor that could have had fatal consequences if it were not for that cleaner. Number 1. Live discovery. After exiting his home one night in 2013, 73-year-old Robert McDonough gave his family quite the scare when he failed to return that same night. Suffering from dementia, he wandered off down nearby roads, and his relatives immediately contacted the proper authorities that night. Police organized a search party and looked all over the local region for 14 hours, hoping he'd turn up eventually. Though it wasn't until the next morning when a local ABC News affiliate began shooting a segment outside his main home that the elderly man resurfaced, making his way into the background of the shot just as cameras were about to go live. Returned to his loving wife, no one ever found out what happened to McDonough that strange night.